What's up, boys and girls? We're back in the shop today working on the Suzuki Lt230s. I'm just painting and priming some stuff. Nothing too exciting. Haven't been filming much of this because that's all pretty boring as far as I'm concerned, but as usual, if you have any questions about what I'm talking about, just leave me a comment and I'll answer it, and I can always outline the process a little bit more in detail. So, I don't know, since the last time you've seen this, well, the last time you saw it, it was probably all together. But I basically stripped it, touched up the frame a little bit. I cleaned up the rear shock, painted the swing arm. The swing arm was just bent to hell where the axle carrier mounts in there, so I actually had to take my floor jack and then kind of turn it sideways and put the lifting plate of the floor jack in between these two mounting points here, and then start kind of pushing them apart with the floor jack, and then I got it pretty darn close to where it had to be, and then I actually went a little bit too far on the bottom, and I'll just have to draw that back in when I tighten those bolts up, but not a big deal. I did put new axle bearings and seals in here when I had this apart. Real easy to do, but I do recommend buying a bearing and seal driver. I picked one up from Harbor Freight because that's where I get all my stuff from, because honestly it's good enough. Harbor Freight's really stepped up the quality of their products in the past few years, so and the prices, I don't know, you just really can't beat it, especially if we're working on stuff like this. So I've been doing a little bit of work to the engine. I don't know how much I talked about this, but I know in the initial video I talked about how the chain had came off, and some previous owner did that to it, but it came off and it just kept spinning and spinning, and then it cracked this cover, did a little bit of damage to the case, and actually found when I took the cover off that whoever tried to fix it did a halfway decent job. Let me grab a light here and try and show that to you a little bit better. Blind myself. They actually welded the inside of the case, and it's not too bad. They did a pretty good job. However, this hole was never tapped. It was kind of just welded up. So I stopped after work today and picked up a metric tap set, drilled that hole back out and tapped it. So now I can properly put the stator cover back on here with the new gasket. And then I also got the, let's find it real quick, the case saver that they make for these that bolts on with those two holes there, something like that, and that's supposed to catch the chain if it were to ever come off again, and as the name implies, save the case from being cracked as it was there. So I also bought a new sprocket set for it, a new drive and driven sprocket. The driven one is over here. This is definitely some kind of universal thing because it's got multiple bolt patterns down there, so I'm sure that can be used in multiple applications, but I tried it, and as you can see by the marks there, it does fit, so that's good. Picked up a new chain for it too that's still over here in the box. I'll be putting that on as soon as I get the engine back into the frame. But I have a little bit more work to do here yet. I did tension the cam chain. I actually pulled the tensioner out, cleaned it up, lubed it up. All that is a plunger in there with a spring on it. So, I don't know, the manual actually recommends, if it seems like it's hung up or something like that, just take this off, clean it out, and then re-lube it. So I just figured I'd go ahead and do that anyway, even though it really didn't need it. But when this was sitting here last, that cam chain was just terribly loose, and I don't think this was ever actually tensioned, judging by the marks on the plunger in there. So I pulled it out. All you have to do is, there's two bolts there. You just undo those bolts and give it a soft tap with a rubber mallet, and it comes right out. And all it is, like I said, there's a plunger with a flat spot on it that has a spring over top of it, and the spring obviously provides tension moving in toward the chain tensioner, and the flat spot is where this bolt rides on it. So once it's at the correct tension, you lock it in place with this bolt. So for the tensioning procedure, all you have to do is loosen this nut and back this bolt off. And when you back that bolt off, the spring will force the plunger in against the tensioner, which is that little black piece there you see hanging out to the right side of the chain. And that'll push that up against the chain, and it kind of automatically tensions itself. You don't have to worry about, oh, do I have enough tension on there or not. You just, like I said, loosen that bolt, back that screw out, and you'll hear kind of a quick little snap, and that's that plunger moving forward against the tensioner. And then once you're all done there, you just tighten the screw back down and then tighten the lock nut, and you're good to go. I am going to replace the clutch in this. There's quite a bit of clutch debris down here in the bottom that obviously needs to be done. I doubt it's ever been done. But I don't know, I would almost be willing to bet that the upper end of this was rebuilt at some point in time. The piston looks brand new, and there's no carbon buildup on it at all, unless this thing just runs that well. I don't know. And it wasn't really leaking a whole lot of oil. There was just a couple of drips around the valve, if you want to call them valve covers, I guess, here and here. So I'm going to replace those seals. I'm just going to buy a gasket set for this whole thing because they're only like 40 bucks, and then that way I'll have the gasket for when I do the clutch. And I'll probably try and pick up another clutch cover, because this one's got some JB Weld boogers on it too. I don't know, I must have cracked at some point in time, so I'm going to go ahead and replace that as well. And then once I have the clutch done, new clutch cover on, and the valves adjusted, this will be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and plop it back in the frame. And then once I have that in there, I'll be able to go ahead and do all of the other little putsy stuff. I got to put that rear sprocket on yet. And then I can put the new chain on. And after that, it's pretty much tires. And I think that's all I really have to get for it was tires. I'm going to get a DG pipe for this once it's all back together and I know it's going to work properly, which it should. I mean, everything looks good inside the engine as far as the transmission is concerned. So I'm not trying to dump too much money into it. All in all, I'd say I'm into it for about 500 bucks right now, and honestly the majority of that was this cover right here. I thought these were a lot cheaper. I thought I'd be able to find a used one, but I had to buy a brand new one, and it was $150, which is stupid, but what are you going to do? Let's go take a look at those tires. Yeah, those are pretty much junk, despite, you know, looking like they have decent tread on them. I never liked the rear tires that came on these anyway. They were always way too big. They just looked like you were running giant balloons back there, and I wasn't a fan of that. So I'm going to get some smaller ones. I think those are 22s. I'm going to try and get some 20s. Those might actually even be 24s. I'm not 100% sure, but either 20s or 21s I think would be fine in the back of there. I do have a carb rebuild kit for it. I haven't done that yet, but these carbs are super simple, so that'll probably take a whole 15 minutes to do. And that's really about it. Other than that, once I get it together and I know it runs and drives well, I'll maybe dress it up a little bit. I don't know if I'll paint the rims or just look for some different rims for it, because the rims that are on it aren't the best, but that's pretty much it. I don't know if you have any questions or anything, just let me know and I can answer them the best that I can. Otherwise I might film a little bit here and there, but all in all it's probably not the most interesting project, but at least not as interesting as the end result. So I'll film some stuff along the way and post a video here and there, and I'll definitely film something when this is all finished and put it up. But for now, that's it. A little update on the 230S. Alright, one more thing. So when I was putting the swing arm axle back together or whatever, these here are what you use in a combination with some bolts to tension the chain. So when you put a bolt in here, you thread it in, and then it pushes up against the swing arm, and then it pulls everything back. So it pulls the axle back while pushing the swing arm forward, essentially. So that makes your chain tighter or looser as you go forward and backward with it. These originally had little nuts that go in behind here that the previous owner must have somehow managed to destroy too. So they welded nuts onto the end of them, and they're just 5/16 by 18 pitch nuts. And they had some different bolts in there that were all bent and beat up, so I took those out, and they were threaded the whole way. And they need to be in order to get the full adjustment, because this is like a 2-3 inch gap in here almost, so you almost need well, that's probably like a 2-inch gap. So you probably need like a 3-inch bolt that has threads all the way along to properly tension the rear axle. And for whatever reason, I can never find bolts that really are threaded all the way down. I end up, you know, I need this. This is what was in there, and as you can see, well, I tried to straighten it, but it was bent a lot worse than it is now. I need threads the whole way, and usually whatever I can find is, you know, only threaded like an inch, and I don't know why that is. It's probably, I'm sure there's a reason behind it. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong section at the hardware store, but I don't know. Anyway, this is what I have. I didn't even bother to go and try and find some that were threaded the whole way, and so I just picked up this tap kit, like I said, from Harbor Freight to tap this hole on the engine. So I figured, now that I've got this tap and die set, why not just thread this bolt the rest of the way down? So thankfully this kit came with a 5/16 by 18 pitch die, which I have over here now, and all I did was thread the rest of the bolt. You can kind of see where the original thread stopped right there, so I threaded from here all the way down to here. This was the original, this is what I ended up with. So now I can just take this and use it to tension the chain with the chain tensioner that the previous owner had set up in there. I don't have to make anything new or go shopping around for different bolts. So just kind of cool that what I ended up buying at Harbor Freight today I ended up being able to use for multiple things. But just in case that's something you may not have thought about, something else you can use a tap and die set for. So anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.